Hello. Today we're going to read with POPTART the dog and Kinsey the cat. Kinsey. And the book we are going to read is called Cows in the House. And it's written by Beverly Lewis and illustrated by Chi Chung. Once upon a time, in a misty mountain village of Thailand, a barefoot boy lived with his father, mother, and 5 quarreling sisters. When monsoon winds began to blow, the 5 little sisters' fussing and fighting grew louder and louder. The barefoot boy clapped his hands over his ears. "Please stop!" he shouted. But the noise persisted, so he left his sniveling sisters and crept out into the darkness. His toes squeezed through the mud as he hurried past the farm animals beneath his stilt house. Then, slipping into his fishing boat, he paddled across the wide river. He arrived at great-grandfather's hut. "Wise great-grandfather," he cried, "my shrilling sisters taunt and tease. There is not an inch of space in the house for me." Great-grandfather stroked his beard, his eyes squinting nearly shut. Soon he said, "Dear grandson, tell me, do you have 5 cows?" "Only 2, said the barefoot boy. "That will do," said great-grandfather. "You must go home and take those cows into your house of stilts." "I will obey your words, wise great-grandfather." When the boy arrived home, he rolled 3 logs up to the entrance. The cows lumbered across the log ramp and as he pushed them into the house. Several days passed, and the barefoot boy's life grew more and more miserable. The cows toppled benches and twisted bedclothes. They mooed and chewed. They romped and stomped. Meanwhile, father spent longer and longer hours in the rice field, and mother tore off her panung at the ankles and wound it around her head, covering her ears. And if teasing and taunting weren't enough, the 5 little sisters hollered at one another, the cows, and their brother. Once again, the boy crossed the river. "Great-grandfather," he wailed, "what have I done? There is no room for me in my house at all. It is worse than a visit from 5 spoiled cousins." The old man listened and scratched his head. Then he said, "My dear grandson, tell me, do you have 5 coddled cousins?" "Only 2. "That will do," said great-grandfather. "You must invite them for a long visit." The boy shook his head in dismay. "Must I?" "My advice is true. Go now. Do as I say," said great-grandfather. The barefoot boy trudged to the hill tribe village with a droopy face. Reluctantly, he invited the coddled cousins to his house. They came whining and whistling, filling the stilt house with unbearable noise. Again, the boy paddled across to great-grandfather's hut. "Please help me, oh wise one. My sisters taunt and tease. The cows topple and twist. My cousins whine and whistle. Worse than a parade of poor musicians." Great-grandfather leaned on his walking stick. Soon he said, "Young grandson, tell me, do you know a parade of hapless musicians?" The boy spoke up. A wedding is in the hills this very day, where musicians with gin, pipa, and bells dance and play. That will do, said the wise old man. After the wedding, take the musicians to your house. Give them each 3 baht. He handed the coins to the boy. The barefoot boy frowned. Surely I must not obey. You must indeed, said the old sage. Now hurry along. Grateful for the coins, the poor musicians followed the boy home, swinging and swaying, dancing and playing. After a long week of taunting and teasing, toppling and twisting, whining and whistling, swinging and swaying, dancing and playing, the house was much too crowded and noisier than ever before. Slipping into his fishing boat, the barefoot boy rowed quickly to the familiar hut. Great-grandfather, he howled, please, please help me. My life is like the loud sampan marketplace. The wise old man rubbed his wrinkled forehead. Soon he said, Go home. Let the cows out of the house. Send your cousins and the musicians back to their families. Yes, yes, I will obey your words, shouted the boy. Arriving home, the barefoot boy did as he was told. He pushed the cows out and sent the cousins and musicians on their way. At last, the barefoot boy slept. His sister's steady quarreling lulled him into a deep, deep slumber. The next morning, he awakened at dawn. He scurried through the house to the sound of his sister's snoring. He ran outside where sunny streams of light rose silently on the crest of the river, and he listened. Monsoon winds had hushed their cry. He jumped in joyous celebration. Peace at last! Quickly he rowed across the river. Your words are true, great-grandfather. Oh, said the wise one. The boy grinned. My house is noisy with 5 little sisters, yet it is peaceful and still. It is brimming with 8 people, yet it is spacious and empty. Great-grandfather nodded slowly, stroking his beard. The barefoot boy rode happily home. The end. Bye, Pop-Tart. Mwah.